Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System, and we have another earring tutorial today. This is going to be a fun one because I'm going to use a technique that I used for a necklace that we did a little while ago, maybe the last video. I'm not sure where it's placing in the order, but we're going to use some really fun links like we used in that video to make earrings. And I think I said in the video when we were doing the links, you can make this into earrings or a bracelet or a necklace. So we're going to do a couple of those links and make them into necklaces. I'm sorry, make them into earrings. And it's going to be very freeform. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. So all you need for this is your standard tools as usual, your round nose pliers, which are called that because the teeth or the prongs, whatever you want to call these, are completely round. We're going to use square pliers, square nose, flat nose, chain nose pliers have a slightly rounded outside, but the inside of it is completely flat. So when you use that on your plier, you'll get squares or a square shape. And the last thing is going to be cutters, which do exactly what they say. And this is just a basic toolkit that you can get pretty much anywhere. I think you can get them at Walmart, you can get them at a craft store, anything like that. Nothing fancy or additional or extra that you need. You'll also need a ruler. And you'll need some beads. And what I'm going to just do is stack some beads. They're not random beads, but I picked out some beads that I'm going to use to make the earrings. In this case, I'm using a couple of bicones, a couple of little round beads. I've got a map jasper, which is really pretty, that I'm going to use. And I'm just going to stack these on a handmade pin and wire pin. And I'm going to make the first link of my earring. And let's go ahead and get started because that's all the description that I have for you for this. So let's go ahead and get down here to the other camera and let's get going. Okay, so I have my beads here. And what I'm going to do is take a length of 20 gauge wire. Now, the measurement of wire that you need depends on how many beads you stack. And this is what I'm doing. Just a little zigzag pattern that frames my beads that I've stacked on my pin. So what you need to do is try to determine, first measurement is going to be easy. All you need to know is how many inches or what measurement you need for the wire for the beads to go through. And to that, you're going to add whatever it's going to take to make your zigzags. And that's going to depend on how many zigzags you make. And so what I'm trying to say is there's no exact measurement for this. Now, I'm going to look at the measurement of my beads, which is approximately a little bit over an inch, about 1.25 inches. So I know I need 1.25 inches for my pin to go through. On either side, I'm going to make that 1.5 inches. On either side, I need 1/2 inch for my loops. So that's 2 inches. And then for the sides here, I'm going to give myself 2 inches on each side for my zigzags. So I believe that's 6 inches. Let's see. 1.25, we're going to say 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. Huh. Okay. 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. So I'm going to give myself 7 inches of wire. Now, again, depending on how much wire you need for your pin, you're going to add to that. So in my case, I'm giving myself 2 inches on each side for my 1.25. If you have 1.5 inches, you might want to add another 1/4 on each side to accommodate each of your zigzags again, depending on how many zigzags you have. Again, not an exact science here. I'm giving myself 7 inches. We'll see how much I have left. But I'm going to measure off 7 inches on my ruler here. Here we go, 7. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my beads and I'm going to put them on the wire the way I want them. So I'm going to do a bicone and a small bead. This is 4 millimeters, so I've got a 4 millimeter bicone, 6 millimeter bicone, excuse me, and a 6 millimeter round. If I can find the little hole in here, my goodness, it's eluding me. Then I'm going to put my matte jasper on there. Isn't that neat? I love those. And another round. And another bicone. And then I'm going to make a loop. And I'm going to give myself about ½ an inch to make my loop on this end. Now, I don't have to leave these beads on here, but I did want to show you, and I've got mine, that this is how you can measure how much you need just for the pin itself. So now I'm going to make my loop, and I'm going to make a wrapped loop that's just wrapped one time around. So I'm going to give myself about ½ an inch of wire, move my beads out of the way here. I'm going to bend my wire back, grab my round nose pliers. I'm going to slide my wire about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, and then bring the small tip of my wire over my pliers and make a loop. So there's my loop right there. And then I'm going to wrap this tail around the long stem. Now, because I can see that these are going to fall off, I'm going to go ahead and do the other end. I'm going to go down here to the bottom of my bead. I'm going to bend my wire back. This way I can make sure these beads don't fall off the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and make my loop. Okay, again, I'm sliding my wire down about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, bringing that tail over the top of my pliers and around into a nice little loop, just like that. So now my beads won't fall off. So I'm going to go back to the other side where my short tail is and just wrap that around one time. I just need one wrap around to secure it. I'm going to use my other pliers to do that because it's a nice short tail. And I cut it short because I don't like to waste a lot of wire if I can avoid it. And then I'm going to just push that little tail down, that little end down close to my tail of wire so that it doesn't snag on anything. There we go. Then I'm going to go to the other side. Oh, you know what? This could be a little bit closer here. There. Now I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to create my little zigzags. Now you can use your fingers to make these little zigzags, or you can use your pliers. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. And you can use round nose or you can use your square nose. It depends on the look that you're after. So I'm going to go right here beside my bead. I'm going to put a little bend, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing for the next one. Let me get that a little deeper. Then I'm going to go down here to the bottom of my bead and place my pliers, make another bend out to the side, just like that. And I'm going to make another one right there at the bend in my wire. There we go. And you can see where I'm going with this. Make this one a little deeper. There we go. Bring that in, then make another one. And that's going to go right there in the middle. Then I have a big bead here, so I going out beside that bead to make that little zigzag. And then the next one right down there at the bottom of the bead. Go. I'm going to take a look because I want it to look as close to the other one as possible. I think that might be a little bigger than I want, but let's see. No, not bad at all. Yay, okay. Make it a little less deep. Make a little bit of an adjustment here. Up just a little bit. There we go. And yes, nice frame we've got going here. And make another bend inside here. And one more bend out. One more bend in. And there's one side. Yes. And now what I need to do is wrap this around. Loop here. One time. One little wrap. And then I'm going to go down the other side. Now, you have the choice to make this symmetrical or not. You don't have to. It's not going to be perfectly symmetrical because, again, this is free. This is free form. So let's just work that in. I'll bend in here. Out. In. And out. I'm starting to get a little worried about my length here. It's a little short. I might have to go back and do that again. In. And out. In. Out. And in one more time. Yikes, that is close. So I gave myself 7 inches. I would suggest if you have 1 1/4 like I have here, that you give yourself 8 inches just to be safe, because this is very, very close. It's enough to wrap around, and that's it. If you like to have a little bit of extra, you need to add some more wire. Give yourself another inch. Then you don't have to struggle or anything. And you'll just be cutting off maybe 3/4 of an inch, so you won't be really wasting too much. So I'm going to wrap that around my loop. It is very snug. Whew, just made it. Let's see what I've got. And there it is. There's my little zigzaggy earring. Now, I could go ahead and just put that on an ear wire and be done with it, but I'm going to add one more little element because why not? I'm calling it making waves. So we've got zigzags, and we're going to go ahead, and I found this really pretty long, what is this? This stone. I can't think of what it is, but I thought it was really neat and it's different. And I'm going to add that to the bottom. And that's going to be a nice long earring with some waves on the bottom. So how do we make this little addition to the bottom here? What I'm going to need for that, I'm going to give myself, it depends on how big your waves are. So again, this is very free form and not an exact measurement or an exact science of any kind. So hold it up there where you can get a good look. So for my waves, I'm going to I can take my ruler and kind of estimate how much I need for each little wave, and it's about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to give myself 1, 2.5 for my waves. And then for my pin, give myself another inch. So that's 3.5. And then I'm doing a simple loop so I can attach it to the top part of my earrings. So that's about 3 inches. I'm going to give myself 4 inches because I'm learning not to be so chintzy. So I'm going to give myself 4 inches to make my little wave dangle. Okay, so again, using 20 gauge wire, 4 inches. There we go. All right, so to make my wave, I said about 2.5 inches from the bottom. That's 3.5. Yeah. So I'm going to give myself 2.5 inches from the bottom. Oh. And all I need to do is take this long tail of wire, bend it over my pliers right there at the tip. And it depends on how big you want your waves to be as to where you put it on your pliers. I'm going on the tip here. Just fold it over nice and close. Then I'm going to go adjust my pliers to the other side, to the back of this loop that I've made. And I'm going to make another zigzag there. There's my first zigzag. There we go. I'm going to go down here right to the bottom of my loop here with my pliers again. I'm going to make another bend in the wire. And then go down to the other side at the bottom of my loop and make another bend. Let's see what I've got so far. It needs to be a little tighter. So let's look at my other one here. Yes, that looks good. And I can adjust it later. I can squeeze the zigzags. Uh-oh, what happened? Come back. Okay, I can squeeze the zigzags together closer to match the one that I have here. Yeah. So now what I want to do is make a little loop. And these need to be mirror image. Here we go. That way. There we go. So down here, I need to make a loop. See how much extra I have left over? That's okay. I'm sure I can find something to do with it. So I'm just going to slide my wire about a third of the way down my pliers, just here at the in the last at the tail of the last loop that I made, and I'm going to make a little loop. That's just going to be the tail of my waves. I'm going to cut that off. So that it's almost closed. And I'm going to close that up with my round pliers. I just want to back this end of my wire up against the rest of my zigzag so that there's nothing that will stick out and scratch. So there we go. Yes. And we have 1, 2, make sure I have my loops correctly. There's my loop, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My loop, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, I need one more. One more little zigzag. Let's count again. Loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Loop, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. Little wave. There we go. And then I'm going to make the pin, make the stem that's going to go up into my bead. So for that, I want to go about halfway between my two little loops here. So there's one loop, there's a loop. I'm going to go right in the middle of the two, and I'm going to make a bend. And I'm just going to use my fingernail to do that. You can use your pliers, you can use your fingernail. It's entirely up to you. So there we go. Yes. I'm going to put my bead on, straighten it out a little bit. There we go. Put my bead on the end. And I'm going to make a loop. and it will be ready to attach my other piece. Now, because the loop for the top part is going flat, in this case, the loop that's going to attach to it needs to go the opposite direction. So if this is flat, then this one needs to go up and down. If this one's up and down, this needs to go flat. It just needs to be the opposite of whatever you're linking into so that it will link properly. And let's just show you what I mean. So I need to bend, and because I want this zigzag to show, I want my loop to go this way so that it'll hang like this. So I'm going to bend my wire back, give myself about 1/2 inch again for my loop. And once you get used to doing this, you'll be able to figure out what your measurements are supposed to be. So I'm going to give myself about 1/2 inch to make my loop. This tail is very short, so I don't want it to go flying across the room. So I'm going to turn it down into this little thing so that it will capture. You can see a bunch of little pieces of wire down in there. It'll just capture my wire, and then I'll grab my pliers, slide my wire about 1/3 of the way down my pliers like usual when I make a loop, and then I'm going to rotate my pliers till I have a partial loop. Open, rotate back, clamp back down, rotate again, and I'm going to do that until I have a loop. There we go. So there's my little dangle that's going to attach. Let's put it together and see what we've got. So I'm just going to open up my little loop. Just open it out to the side. Slide on my little dangle. Close this back up. Go. And now I'm ready to attach it to an ear wire. Push that down. And so there are my earrings. Aren't those neat? I love it. Let me go ahead and make an ear wire real quick. So all you need for that is about 1.5 to 2 inches of wire. It doesn't take much. Okay. Then I'm going to take my round nose pliers and make a small loop. I'm going to go about 1/4 to 1/3 of the way up your pliers. It doesn't have to be a big loop. And just rotate until I have my loop. There we go. And then I'm just going to grab a cylindrical item. It's entirely up to you what you use. Well, I had an ink pen here. What happened to it? That I was going to use to make my ear wire, and I don't see it. It was right here. Where is it? Hold on just a second while I find it. Here it is, here it is, here it is. Okay. So I'm just using this little ink pen to make my loop. So what I want to do is go right here behind my loop that I just made, right here at the top of it, and decide how big I want my loop to be, and just wrap it around whatever that item is. And that's going to be my ear wire. So all I need to do now is shape it. Yeah. Okay, so there's my ear wire. I just need to use my fingers and put a little gentle curve in it, just like that. And then I'm going to clip that off, clip the end off. I wanted to match up with this one. So let's put them together. There we go. Yeah. It's easier if you do them both at the same time, then you don't have to do this. Okay, so now I just need to cut this off to match the length of the other one. I wonder if you can hear all those emergency squads. I'm living on a main thoroughfare now, so I get lots of emergency squads, fire trucks. Ah, lovely living in the city. Okay, so now again, I have a short tail here. I'm going to turn it down into my little wire tube cut off so that I don't end up with wire all over the place. And there's my ear wire. Then I'm going to go down here at the bottom. Just take the tip of my square or round pliers and put a little ledge on there, and I have a nice, easy to make ear wire. Neat. So let's go ahead, put my earring on. It needs to be mirror image of this one. Okay. Put that around. Yes, there we go. There's my mirror image. Put that on there. Close it up. And there are my earrings. Turn around where you can see what I can see. Aren't those neat? Let's bring them up a little closer to the camera. Here are my earrings. I really need to try these on. These are kind of awesome. My nice little avant-garde, free-form, zigzag earrings. I'm going to call them, I'm going to name them Making Waves instead of zigzags. We're making waves. What do you think of this? Kind of neat? I think so. All right, let's make one more pair. Just because why not? Okay, so this pair, I'm going to use what a really pretty link that I saw on Three Girls. I think it's the Three Girls YouTube channel. I'm going to make it a little bit different than they made, just because I just want it a little different. It's almost the exact same, but not quite. So this is what it's going to turn out to look like. These are the earrings. They made links out of it. We're going to make earrings. All right, so what I need is about 2 inches of wire again. And I need 2 pieces, so. Oh, I didn't hold on to the end, and it just went flying off to parts unknown. So I'm going to have to go search for that later. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, so I need to cut 2 pieces of wire. Oh, that's going to be a fun search. Oh boy. Okay. Another one. Okay, so now what I need is a cylindrical item, and I should have told you that in the what you need category. I need some kind of a cylindrical item to make my circles. In this case, I'm using, again, this ink pen. So I just want to lay, and notice how I'm not straightening that out. I'm about to curve it up anyway. So straightening it will just mean working harder to get it back into, get it to conform to the shape that I want. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to lay this on my ink pen. I'm going to leave a little tail here because it helps me, it gives me something to work with without having to fight with it. So I'm just going to wrap this long tail around my ink pen or whatever cylindrical item you're using. Just wrap that around nice and snug. And then you can use your pliers to push down the end against the cylindrical item. Get it nice and round. And I'm just going just beyond the tip here. So I'm going about a quarter of an inch or so just beyond the tip that I wrapped around. So I have a nice circle. There we go. And then I'm going to go again about a quarter of an inch away from the tip. And I'm going to bend my wire up just like that. So that's what I have. That's it for the moment. And then I'm going to take the other one and do the same thing. Just wrap it around my pen. Nice and snug. Push down that short tail. Get it as round as I can. And take it off of whatever your cylindrical item is. Go over about a quarter of an inch and take the long tailed wire, straight wire that's left, and bend it straight up away from the loop. Okay. There we go. There we go. So now what I need to do is take one of my loops, one of my tails that's attached to the loop, and slide it in the other one. So it's going to be in the opposite direction. This tail is going to slide in the opposite direction of the other tail, so that I have this. So all I did was take this tail from this one and slide it inside the loop of the other one in the opposite direction of the long tail that's here. Just like that. So this is what I have. So now I know what I want to do is link these two together. And I want a little bit of a opening here because I'm going to put a bead in it. So all I need is a little bit of space here. I'm giving myself about a quarter of an inch. You can make it an eighth of an inch. You can make it a quarter of an inch. It just depends on how big your bead is and how much space you want down here to support your bead. So I'm giving myself about a quarter of an inch. Then I'm going to cut this down to just so that I can wrap it around this frame. So what I like to do, because I think it's easier, is to go ahead and put a bend in it. Now you can use your pliers and make a loop, or you can just do this. And then I'm going to cut off down to about 1/4 of an inch to match the 1/4 of an inch that's here. So I've got a bend in my wire. I'm going to cut that down to about 1/4 of an inch. And you need to hold on to everything. Let that go. And then I'm going to take my pliers and make the rest of my loop, because I've got about a 2/3 of a loop. I'm just going to close that up. And then you can use your flat pliers to squeeze it the rest of the way down, like that. There we go. And now I want to do the same thing on the other side. And I want to check and make sure this is nice and straight. And then I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to wrap that tail around the other round frame. So I'm just going to bend that over, snip that down to about that 1/4 of an inch. And close up my loop. I hope I'm describing this well enough, because I know it's so small that my hands are blocking some of my progress. And then I'm going to straighten this out, because see how that's leaning a little bit to the side there? Straighten it out. And so that's what I have now. There we go. See, that's nicely closed. Now, one of the reasons I said mine is a little bit different is because theirs is stopping, their little loop actually stops right here beside their circle stops beside where we've made our little loop. And it's a little bit open, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just preferred mine to be a little more closed. So I've given myself a lot of extension of wire, and now I'm going to cut it off, because I didn't want mine to really be, I didn't want that open end to be so exposed. So now I'm going to cut it down just beside where my wrap is. So this is the tail of my wire right here. Let's see if I can get a good view of that. Here's the little end of my wire. I'm going to snip that off, and be careful not to cut the other wire. Let's cut that off. And get rid of that. So there's the end. I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. And let's get to the side. I think it's easier. There's the end right there. Take that off. And then I'm going to push this together, because I'm going to make sure that end is meeting up with the rest of my wire. So there we have that. See that? There we go. So now I'm going to add my bead. I've got these pretty little cat's eye beads that I'm using here. Yeah. So now I need some 24 gauge wire, and I just need about, I'm just going to give myself about 6 inches of wire because I'm going to do a little weaving. And that may be too much, but that's okay. I'd rather have more than I need than not enough. Actually, I probably only need 4, but I'm going to give myself 6 because I want to be able to attach it to the other one that I've already made. I need to attach it to this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap this right where these 2 wires are meeting on each side. I'm going to wrap my wire, my 24 gauge wire around it. So I'm going to have this little tail, and I'm going to bend that over right where those 2 wires meet. Get started. There we go, nice and snug. And hold on to that little tail. And then I'm just going to wrap, use my long tail. Let's get that over there. Let's use my long tail and feed it through my circle and wrap that around. Nice and snug there. Give myself one more little wrap. Weave that tail through and pull it nice and snug. And then I'm going to clip off the end of the short tail because I don't need that anymore. Just clip that off. And just squeeze that end down. Wrap it down nice and tight against my loop so that it won't catch on anything. There we go. Now I want to make a loop here because I'm going to attach that to my other loop. So what I need to do is make a loop over to the side here. So I'm going to wrap that around. One time, and then go back around my pliers again. Open my pliers, bring the pliers out, and then slide them back in my loop and bring it around the rest of the way. just like that. I'm going to wrap that around. Give it one good wrap and a half. So now I have a nice closed loop at the top. So now let's introduce our bead. Grab my bead, slide it on. Right down there in my circle. And now I'm going to wrap around the other side. Again, I'm just going to bring that tail around and inside my circle. I like to use a push-pull motion. I like to push it as much as I can so I can get it as close to my frame as possible, and then pull it the rest of the way. And then if you need to, you can use your pliers to get it nice and tight. Let's give it another wrap. Just kind of weaving it through here. Push it through, pull it out the other end. And again, you can use your pliers to get that nice and snug. Just pull it nice and tight. And there's my bead on there. Good. And now I need to make a loop on the other side so that I can link it to my other frame. So I'm just going to take my pliers. Again, I'm going to slide my wire down about 1/3 of the way. It doesn't have to be too big a loop. Bring that wire over the top and around one side of my pliers, like so. As far as I can go without going over both of the prongs. And then I'm going to take the pliers off and slide one of the prongs inside the loop and the other up underneath the loop. And continue my circle. As a matter of fact, because this is on the front, I'm going to turn this around because I want to make sure both of my loops are the same size. So I want to turn it around, slide that wire down again until it's 1/3 of the way down my pliers, and continue my second loop. Okay, bring that around until I have a full loop. I'm going to leave this in my pliers and wrap it around the bottom of my loop just above my frame. And I just need 1.5 wraps again, just like I did on the other side. Okay. Snip that off. Cut off that tail. Oops. There's that little end. Should be sticking up. There it is. There it is. There it is. And now I'm going to just push that little tail down, that ends down until it's nice and secure against the rest of my rings and won't snag anything, particularly my ears. And there is my little link. Great. And that's going to go with this one. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one, except that I'm only going to put one loop instead of 2. So let's grab my wire on size, grab my 24 gauge wire. Off the link. Again, I'm going to go right down here where the two rings meet, right there. And I'm going to wrap my wire around it. Give myself a little short tail to hold on to. And wrap my long tail around. And feed it through the center. Pull it nice and tight. And let's wrap it. Weave it through one more time. Nice and snug. Here we go. Cut off that tail. Don't need it. Snip off that little end. And push that little tail down. All right. Make some little adjustments to my circle. Let's grab my bead, feed it on. And notice how I'm not making a loop over here. I'm going to make one loop on the other side because I only need one. Slide my bead on. And my weave on the other side, just feed that through. And wrap. One more little weave. Okay, all right, so I've got my partial loop here. I'm going to slide my pliers back in. One of the, excuse me, one of the teeth is in the loop, the other is behind the long tail, and I'm going to wrap it around the rest of the way until I'm right here at the top of my frame. And then I'm going to wrap it around right here at the top of my frame. And I only need 1.5 wraps. Once I achieve that, I can clip off that tail. Get rid of that extra and push that little end down. There we go. So those are going to connect together. Just like that. But I'm going to put another bead in the center. I've got this little flat bead that I'm going to put this the same. It's the oddest thing. I found they were the exact same color. So I'm going to use that instead of a jump ring. I could have just used a jump ring to link them together, but I thought it would be prettier to have a nice little bead in the center. So all I need is about an inch of wire. Do I have a little inch of wire sitting over here somewhere that I can use that I don't have to put another piece? No, I don't see one. Yes, I do. Right here. This little tiny, all you need is to measure your bead, see how much you need for your bead itself. Give yourself a ½ inch on each side because I'm going to just do a simple loop. So let's make my little loop. Sliding my wire 1/3 of the way down on my pliers. Make my little loop. Just like so. And I want this, I don't want this to look like a P. I want it to be a loop on top of this long stem. So I'm going to bend that loop back until it's resting on top of the stem. It looks more like a little lollipop. Just like that. Okay, it's telling me that I'm going over my hour. Probably already over my hour. All right, I'm going to slide my bead on, and then I'm going to make a loop on the other side. Again, I only need about ½ inch. So I'm going to bend that back, snip it down to about ½ inch. Cut off the tail. And make my loop. Again, I'm sliding my wire about 1/3 of the way down my pliers, and I want to make sure nothing's sticking out the back here because that's what helps me create a nice round loop. If something's sticking out the back, by the time you loop it around, it'll end up being an oval shape or a teardrop shape instead of a loop. And that's not the shape that I want. Teardrop shape is fine if that's what you're after, but I'm going after a nice rounded loop. Okay, so rotate until I have my full loop all the way around. And there we go. And now I'm going to attach my pieces. All I need is to open up one of my loops on my center bead, what's going to be the center bead, and slide that into the loop on my top bead. This is the top bead because it's going to connect to the ear wire. And I'll close that center loop, my open loop back up, open the other side. Attach that to my bottom framed bead. Close it back up. And here we go. Neat, huh? Okay, now, one thing that I need to make sure of is that they are the correct side, because this is one-sided. This is wrapped, that's wrapped. This should be the same direction so that the end is wrapping around and ending up on the bottom. So here's the end down here. That's my bottom. Let's make sure this is the same way. It isn't. This is wrapping top around the top. So I need to flip it around. So I'm going to open that up and take that off. And I want to show you what I mean. This wraps around and underneath and ends here. That's the bottom for me. And this is the top. The smooth side is the top. So I want that to be the same as what's on top here. I want both of them to be on the same side. Here we go. So let's close that up. There we have it. And there is my earring. Isn't that neat? And all I need is another ear wire. Do I have one floating around over here somewhere? Probably. I will add that later. Oh my gosh, what's happening? It keeps doing that. I don't know why. It's like in my new place, my computer has a hair trigger and it just does what it wants. All right, yes, I get it. You're taking too long. So there we go. There's my earring to match the other earring. There they are. Those are kind of awesome. It's just so different. I just wanted something a little bit different, and this meets the bill. All right, so let me put these down here on something that you can see them better on, I hope. There we go. There's the one. I'll make the ear wire later for that. But there you go. And where's the other pair? Here's the other pair. Here, you can see them. There we go. They're my earrings. Those are kind of awesome, if I must say so myself. So this is it, folks. These are our Luscious Link earrings. That's it. That's our piece for today. I hope this came out okay because it kept stopping for some reason. And I hope everything came out just fine. Excuse me. So I hope everything came out okay. I will check the video later. If it's not right, I will do it again, just like I always do. But I hope you liked this because I like these earrings. They're pretty neat, if I must say so myself. This is what we made today. Stop moving. We have our, what I'm calling making waves. And then we have our double orbit. I don't know what I'm going to call them. But I think these came out really neat for a little kind of avant-garde, free-form, just very organic pieces of jewelry. And I hope you liked it. So if you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know, and let me know why. But go ahead and get in contact with me if you so choose at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com, and send me pictures of what you make, any comments that you want to make about how the video came out for you, if you were able to understand it, follow it, not understand it, let me know, because I'm all about improvement and making sure that you learn from the videos. You can also drop a comment on the DeKalb Library, DeKalb County Library Facebook page. That's facebook.com/DeKalb Library. Again, facebook.com/DeKalblibrary. Let us know in the comments what you think. Also, we are putting these on YouTube. They're out there on YouTube. If you want to go to the DeKalb Library YouTube page, and if you subscribe, then you will be notified when new videos are posted, which is always fun. So go ahead, let us know what you think. I hope that you enjoyed this. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your week, wherever you are in it, and your weekend, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.